Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm your host, Jeffrey, and subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. Now, in the Big 12 on Saturday, there's a game between two teams with identical records, with the Baylor Bears traveling on the road at the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Who do I think is going to win this game? Let's break it down. Now, Baylor is 4-3 and 2-2 in the Big 12. Start this season. And Dave Aranda has done a really good job at Baylor, and he's really turned them around from when Baylor used to be a really bad football program. But they're a lot better than they used to be. But they have had some struggles this season, but they've also played well at times too. They beat Albany in week 1 69-10, and that was a good win. And then they lost at BYU in overtime 26-20. This was a tough loss. They easily could have won this game, but they couldn't get it done. But then they bounced back and beat Texas State 42-7, and that was a good win. And then they won at Iowa State 31-24. This was one of their best games of the season. Iowa State's a tough place to play, and they found a way to win. But then they lost to Oklahoma State 36-25, and then they lost at West Virginia 43-40 in a game that they probably should have won, but they had a lot of mistakes and turnovers, and they could not get the win. But then they bounced back and beat Kansas 35-23, and that was a good win because Kansas is a much better football team this season. And in that game, quarterback Blake Shapen had 164 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. He's a good quarterback. He is kind of turnover prone, but if he can keep the turnovers down, then Baylor's been very good on offense this season with him at quarterback, but he has to keep the turnovers to a minimum. Running back Richard Reese at 186 yards and 2 touchdowns against Kansas. He's a fantastic running back, and he is getting better and better as the season has gone along, and he has definitely helped Baylor's offense, especially with Blake Shapen's turnover issues. Running back Quaylon Jones at 71 yards. He's a good complementary back to Richard Reese. Wide receiver Monterey Baldwin at 29 yards and a touchdown. He's a good wide receiver, and they need to get the ball to him more. So I think Baylor's offense can be completely two-dimensional if you have the running game and the passing game going at the same time. And then on the defensive side of the ball, linebacker Dylan Doyle at 3 tackles and linebacker Garmin Randolph at 2 tackles for Baylor against Kansas. And Baylor's defense has been solid at times this season. They've given up some points in the Big 12 with has a lot of great offenses, but I do think Baylor's defense is still pretty talented. And on the Texas Tech side, they have the same record as Baylor. They're 4-3 and 2-2 in the Big 12 as well. And Joey Mcguire is in his first season as the Texas Tech head coach. And Texas Tech's been a pleasant surprise. They've been pretty good this season, and they've had a lot of games where they've been really solid. They've had struggles as well, but they've also been really good at times as well. They beat Murray State 63-10 in week 1, and that was a good win. And then they beat Houston in overtime 33-30, and this was a good win because Houston is a really good group of 5 team, and they won that game in overtime. Then they lost at NC State 27-14, and obviously Devin Leary was healthy at quarterback for NC State in this game, so not a bad loss at all there. And then they beat Texas in overtime 37-34. And this is one of Texas Tech's best performances of the season because Texas is a really good team. Quinn Ewers was not playing for Texas in this game, but Hudson Card played well. But a Bijan Robinson fumble in overtime helped Texas Tech get the win. Then they lost at Kansas State 37-28. Kansas State's a much better football team this year. Not too bad of a loss there. Then they lost at Oklahoma State 41-31. So like Baylor, both teams were competitive against Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State's really good. But then Texas Tech beat West Virginia 48-10 at home, and this was a beatdown. Texas Tech played their best game of the whole entire season in this game. They played fantastic. Quarterback Baran Morton at 325 yards and 2 touchdowns and 17 rushing yards. He's been a really serviceable quarterback for Texas Tech. He's actually been really, really good. And he's come out of nowhere because obviously Texas Tech started the season with Tyler Shutt at quarterback, the transfer from Oregon. And then they had Donovan Smith playing. But now it's Baran Morton. He's been fantastic for Texas Tech. Running back Taj Brooks at 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's a really good running back for Texas Tech. And running back SaRodrick Thompson at 59 yards and a touchdown. He's a good complimentary back to Taj Brooks as well. Just like Baylor's 2 good running backs, Texas Tech does as well. Wide receiver Xavier White at 139 yards and a touchdown. I think Xavier White's going to be in the NFL. He's a great wide receiver. And on the defensive side of the ball, defensive back Marcus Waters at 7 tackles, and defensive back Dadrian Taylor at 5 tackles and interception for Texas Tech against West Virginia. And obviously Texas Tech's offense is playing really good football this season, and their offense has been good in the past as well, so that hasn't changed. But on the defensive side of the ball, I think Texas Tech defense is better than it's been. Usually Texas Tech's defense is really awful, but they've been a lot better this season. They're still getting up a lot of points, but there is marked improvement on that side of the ball. So who do I think is going to win this game? This game is at Texas Tech. And that really helps in this game for Texas Tech because Texas Tech has played much better at home this season. And Baylor and Texas Tech are really similar teams. Besides the fact that they have the exact same records, they've both played well against the better teams that they've lost to, and they've done really well against the teams that they have beaten. But I think the home field advantage is going to make a big difference here, because I think Texas Tech is playing really confident football right now. They just beat West Virginia 48-10 on their own field, and I think Texas Tech is going to get the win 35-28 over Baylor. I think Baylor can win this game. I think Dave Aranda is a stud coach. I think Baylor's got a pretty good offense and a pretty good defense, and I think Texas Tech doesn't have too much more talent than Baylor. I actually would say maybe Baylor has more talent than Texas Tech, but Texas Tech does have a pretty good offense, and their defense is marketably improved than it used to be with Joey Mcguire at head coach in his first season. And I think Texas Tech is playing very confident football right now, and even though Baylor's having a pretty good season as well, I think Texas Tech, with the home field advantage, is going to find a way to beat Baylor 35-28. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below whether you think Texas Tech or Baylor is going to win this game and why, and I will see you next time.